to the Slamcast. You got your host, me, Malik. We've got Murph here, and Murph, another special guest. I'll let you do the intro, man.
That's right. We got Coach Planells. I'm sorry. How do you pronounce that exactly?
No, you were right. You're right. But everybody calls me Coach H, so you're good.
Coach H. All right, right on, man. Well, welcome. You know, you're an established keynote speaker, coach, obviously. You've been doing this for a long time. It's great to have you on. We're going to pick your brain and see what you think going into this new Slamball season, as well as get some background on you.
Let's do this. Come on, guys.
All right.
Sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We do want to take a second, man. Shout out to Sam. You guys did a great interview. If you guys want a bunch of those details about his background and where he comes from and everything that makes, Coach H, definitely check him out. But we'll jump right into it, man. So, we'll talk about a little bit of your background here. What brought you into being a motivational speaker? Coaching will likely be a little bit of that answer, but, I'll let you speak on that part.
Yeah, coaching is really about getting someone to live their fullest life, right? So, in my coaching career, that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to help people get to the highest level. And the next step was to be a speaker. And now I travel around and hopefully somebody's listening to what I'm saying.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
we definitely are. We definitely are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So is this something that you knew that you'd be doing from the start, motivational speaking or coaching? Kind of what came first?
No, I really just wanted to coach for the longest time. And over time, you just get offered to speak at events. And then all of a sudden you're there, you're speaking, and you're understanding that you are, I don't want to say inspirational, but it's about, you're not showing off what you've done, but you're saying you can do it too. And it's not these steps, but you got to believe in yourself. And then from there, take it to another level.
Certainly. And what was your most fulfilling, experience as a motivational speaker?
Oh, wow. I think every time I talk about my kids, my son's 22, my daughter's 20. I was divorced 10 years ago. I spent a lot of time away from them. So being able to learn communication and connection with them through the divorce, living in, I was in Durham, North Carolina, they were in LA, 3,000 miles away. So you have to learn certain things to communicate. And when you share that story, it resonates because so many people go through some tough times. And so many people can't get out of it. So when you learn how to get out of it, when you learn how to fight for you, then all of a sudden things become a little easier.
Absolutely. And there was something that you said that really resonated, and we probably talked about it for like 15 minutes yesterday. You said that, the word dad in and of itself doesn't mean a lot. It's about what you say, what you do, the example you set, how you're there, how you show love. And that, to me is a challenge, right? Like, we don't have kids per se, but that's a challenge for anyone, to be a colleague, to be a friend, to be a son, to be a family member, part of the family, a teammate, all these things. It's kind of that same principle. It's not necessarily about being a captain.
Right.
It's about showing you're a captain. And so can you kind of talk about that? And I think that can resonate with a lot of people, not even, they can be fathers, they can be mothers, but just being those things that I mentioned, a teammate, and things like that. So can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, people love titles, right? Deion Sanders says, the reason why you have a title is so I know where your office is, right? So like anybody could have a title, and leadership comes from anybody and everywhere, right? You could lead even if you're not a captain. You could lead through example. You could lead through love. You could lead through talking, right? So it doesn't matter what your title is. And I think, I mentioned, I'm half Filipino, half Spanish. So family is so important. But at the end of the day, it's the actions that speak louder than words. And And the hardest part about actions is being intentional every time. Because it's easy to preach it. So many people preach it, but they don't follow it. So I would tell everybody, you have to live your life the way you would coach others. You have to live your life how you would tell a younger version of yourself. You have to live your life like you would tell your kids or your nephews or whoever. Or you have to try to. And if you do that, then you usually go on a good path.
I would agree. And I think not the number one step, but a pivotal part of that process is the desire to do it in the first place. No one's going to be perfect, but the desire to strive for that greatness as both a role model and an example, that's going to be huge. Because if you don't have that desire, then ultimately you're going to be the preacher.
Right. And the desire comes from wanting to be your best self every day. Mm-hmm. Now that's hard. It's a pain in the ass, right? But you owe it to yourself. Like, you're going to fall, but can you learn from that? Can you continue your climb to the top and know that, there's peaks and valleys, but most of your work is done in the valleys. When you improve, you get better, you love yourself more, you love others more. That's where it is. During the peaks is when our ego gets big. The valleys is where we really learn lessons.
Certainly.
Yep.
And
I
do you
definitely
tend
agree.
to, yeah, absolutely, Mark. And do you tend to grow, both as a person, as a leader? Do you tend to do that better on your own or with others? I always think that that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it's a combination, right? You have to get better on your own so that you are prepared when you lead others. You also have to self-reflect, but you also need yourself and people around you to say, hey, you're not doing the best job you possibly can. So you really, I got, like, in my iPad, I write tons of things all the time. I'll even give you something I wrote today.
Please.
One of the big things is that, courage is needed to be a leader today. You have to have courage to tell the truth. You have to have courage to not BS. You have the courage not to be a used car salesman, right? So courage is a huge, huge part of what you do. And then I also teach a lot that progress is not about wins or losses. It's about growth, right? We all want to win, we all want to lose. And that's in life as well, too. But what's our progress look like? Now, the issue comes when guys make mistake over and over again, and then they say, but I'm growing. No, I'm getting better. Well, okay, but you're still messing up. And there's got to be that self-control as a person to say, all right, enough is enough. Let's make this happen, right? And athletes do it all the time. We all do it all the time in every avenue. But sometimes we really got to say, all right, man, like that's enough. And you get a string of victories that day by day, there are many wins every day. Write down 3 things you want to do today. Get those things done, you feel good. If you make a list of 10, you'll feel like a loser all the time. So 3 things to do, many wins, give yourself grace, but improve at the same time.
That's
And
great.
I kind of saw that as well. And I saw that you had authored a book on Amazon where you have 3 goals at the top and just pages of drawing up plays as a coach to players and that type of help book. So that definitely speaks to exactly what you're saying right now.
Yeah, well, and so I have a 30-day gratitude journal for athletes. Then I have the book where you're writing plays. I think ultimately it's what is the time you're going to take for yourself. And I say this all the time. We always chase something, whether we're chasing a job, we're chasing women or men, we're chasing something. Well, add chasing greatness for yourself to that list, right? Add giving myself confidence in that list so that I can grow as an individual and I can then be inspirational, transformational to whoever's around me.
That's very wise. That's very wise. And I just got to ask now, like, what's your relationship like with Coach Carter? Because obviously you guys knew each other back in the
Yeah.
day. I believe that you had worked on that movie with Samuel L. Jackson.
I did.
Right.
Yeah.
So being that you were around when that movie started or was created, and just knowing him personally through Slamball as well. How much have you learned from him, and how much do you implement some of the things that he's done?
Well, Coach Carter, number one, is a tremendous coach, a tremendous human. I love what he does with the youth and just the public in general. I think what I learned about him is you always have to be better, right? You just always have to set the bar high and then get there. He's tough. He gets on his players. He gets on himself. But he's not afraid of anything. That's what I love about Ken Carter. That's what I learned from him, I guess, season 1 in Slamball was maybe 18 years ago. So, yeah, I've learned so much from him. And then being able to do the choreography on his movie, being part of that team was a huge learning experience for me as well, too.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool.
Yeah. And bouncing off of that question, you kind of mentioned, and we'll keep with the coaching, Kirsch, you consider him as one of the greats as it pertains to preparation and all of that good stuff. You said there's no secrets in Slamball, right?
Right.
You can kind of simplify the game. And I think that's beautiful, right? If you're new to the game, after a couple of games, you can kind of understand the flow, even if you don't know the strategy specifically. But, how often do you find yourself implementing these things from other coaches and their philosophy, if you will, into your own and kind of morphing it into your own kind of take on it?
Yeah, I mean, especially practicing with Coach Kirsch and the mob every day, they add so many different wrinkles that makes our team better. But also just how coaches approach the game. We have former players who are coaching, and they see it in a different way than Coach Kirsch and I do. So, but really, it's about how can I time my offense better than your defense? And at the end of the day, all you have to do is win by 1 point. That's it. I just got to get that 1 point over you. So whether it's a stop, whether it's an attack, whether it's a lob, when people watch Slamball, they just see the dunks. I just talked to a guy here in Vegas. He was like, oh, wait, there's coaches? There's strategy? It's like, yeah. It's just, it's a sport. And I think those are the things that get lost a little bit. Coaching is important, but you guys know you can be the best coach, but if you don't have any players, it doesn't matter. I mean, Chuck Daly, Dream Team, Detroit Pistons, 2-time world champion in the NBA. A reporter said, how did you become the best coach in the world? He said, no. I'm a good coach, but only because I have the best players. That's it. And that's where it really comes from. But you learn so much. I learned from Coach Kirsch the timing of the bounce of the stopper. Okay, so when you're watching this year, the stopper is going to be bouncing on the bottom tramp. The gunner or the handler is going to attack. Now, you have two different attacks, right? You have the one attack where you hit the top or side tramp and go right on the stopper, or you have the two tramp where you get over the island and then you do it. Well, if I'm the stopper, the guy comes over, the gunner has to read when the stopper is going down. And if they're going at the same time, the gunner could lift his knees up, and then now you get this effect. So now he could jump over the stopper, right? Those are things that I didn't think about. I was like, just dunk the damn ball, right? And I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's really good. The timing of the stopper, watching it. So those little things you pick up as you teach the game, because, I mean, let's be honest. I haven't taught Slamball in like 12 years.
Right. Right. So, going off of that, how do these players compare to the players that you coached before? Like athleticism-wise, on social media, for instance, we're seeing players doing crazy acrobatic stuff out there, flipping, dunking the ball. So during scrimmages, do you think players are going to be able to pull off these maneuvers while actually being defended? Or what do you see athleticism-wise between back then and now?
Yeah, I think it'll be really hard to do those acrobatic type dunks when there's the defender there. Not to say it can't be done. And that's what we would love to see as the evolution continues. I think it's a different era. I don't like comparing players.
Sure.
Now we have guys who played at super high levels. So now it's understanding how today's athlete is. Even when I coach, like regular basketball, I don't like saying, oh man, kids today, they're not as tough. Because you know what? 20 years ago, no, I'm 46. Like 30 years ago, my dad said the same thing about me. Like, oh, my dad was 50 when I was born. So he'd be like, yeah, when I was born, I had to walk through the snow and I played soccer here or football and blah. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't have air conditioning. Sorry. Now it's like, yeah, you had a Sega Genesis, coach. I had PlayStation. I had So once you get over that, it's like today's players are different. Will they be better? They could be. It just, we'll see come the 21st. I think the talent's unbelievable. I think the what it's going to look like is gonna be so beautiful, honestly. But the best part of it is that it's back, and now it has wheels to go on for a long time.
Right. I like how you put that.
For sure. And what do you expect out of this Slamball season? And obviously you guys have, the 2 years with ESPN, and I firmly believe you'll be picked up again by them if they're smart. And then, if they're not, then someone else. I think you guys will be around for a very long time. But what do you expect to get out of this experience coming back?
All right, so a few things, Malik. Expectation will ruin anybody's life. If I expect my girl to have dinner ready for me when I come home, number one, I sound like an ass. But number two, I'm just setting myself up for failure, right? So that's my first thing. Secondly, and I said this to the team, listen, Slamball has a contract with ESPN. ESPN does not have a contract with Coach Hernando or the Buzzsaw. So we got to play our asses off. But that being said, I think the sport is set up for amazing things. We got to do our job in playing well and coaching well to continually to come back. But I do think it's going to grow. I mean, and it's not just because there's other things on TV. It's because Slamball is a spectacular sport. And the coaches and the people involved gives it a totally different experience than anything you could watch. I mean, people are watching pickleball. I love pickleball. But am I missing something? It's miniature tennis. I don't know. And for all the pickleball people, I love you. Not saying anything. I'm just saying it's mind-blowing. Get that money, pickleball. Let's go. Right?
That's right.
But now we got Slamball. Like,
yeah.
It's a much more exciting, So yeah,
absolutely.
That's my.
I saw cornhole the other day on ESPN, and I was like, man, I can't wait for Slamball to come out. Like, get out of here. We're throwing.
I have to say this. I have to say this about cornhole. I've played cornhole maybe 10 times in my life. I don't find any enjoyment whatsoever. I don't. I'm throwing a beanbag at someone's face. I'm supposed to put it in the hole. Like, I don't. Then you got the guys who like flip it or they're doing whatever, and I'm like, ugh. I don't even know what I'm doing, nor do I want to be good at it. So, but if you invite me, I'll play. I just won't win. Just don't put me on your team.
Yeah, there better be some food on the grill that you can have in your other hand at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yep. I totally couldn't agree with you more.
No, that's all good. And it's funny because we've shared this with a couple of the guys, but through this process, a lot of our friends have been sending us videos of what is on ESPN right now, and it just kind of speaks to what you're talking about. It's so exciting. And another little side story is, as we were kind of planning the podcast and putting everything together, it was right around the NBA Finals, and I'm a Heat fan. So when you said you didn't like the Heat, I kind of took it personally until I realized you were talking about the temperature.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? But no, it's we almost missed a couple Heat playoff games because we were watching old games where we almost even knew the outcome.
That's the best stuff.
Exactly. But it's just that entertaining, and we can't say it enough. I mean, it's a whole different brand of 3, 4, 5 sports, that
Mm-hmm.
brings, action at every moment. And I think one of the coolest parts is the way you guys substitute. How do you kind of manage that as a coach? And is it sometimes that you don't even have to look over there, or do you kind of find that rhythm, or is it always a direct call, or can you kind of take us through that kind of game mindset?
Yeah, well, I mean, today we scrimmaged, and I almost fired a guy on my team because he didn't hear me sub him in or out. I was like, man, you want to be in this league? Because I'll cut your ass like right now, like it's going away. But I wasn't joking at the time, but I definitely was not going to cut him. But that's besides the point. So I substitute hockey. I will be doing line changes this year. And I do this when I coach basketball. I do line changes and I sub every 2 minutes. The theory behind that is that, I don't know if you notice when you watch Slamball games, over the period of the game, there is no defense. Like it's just going back and forth. Well, the theory is, you sub every 2 minutes, you're getting fresh bodies in to make one more hit, to make one more stop.
Defense.
So that's what we're banking on, and we'll have probably maybe a color-coded sign or whatever, like the old football plays. We're just going to put them up, get them going, and sub them in. But then also the other part, though, is subbing at the right time, right? Because sometimes if, let's see, they score on our end and I sub, we throw the ball, maybe they steal the ball, or we could have a wide open look, or you know what I mean? So it's getting the guys to be disciplined enough to not go away from the play, come to the play, so that now we could sub right away and continue in our motion.
For sure. And I think that's the same kind of little tips and tricks that someone like Kirsch would implement on the offensive side. And it's equally as important. You're talking about fresh legs, more defense, and that's exciting. And we'll get more into that mindset of coaching. That's something that we really want to get into. But, before we get into that, like, how imperative is it that these former coaches are not just involved, but really guiding the ship for these new guys? Can you kind of talk about, what things would look like if it wasn't, such a brotherhood in which they felt, confident and willing to come back and dedicate their time just as much as the players?
Yeah, since the whole league is a rookie league, you don't have veterans to be in there. Season 1 is vastly different than season 2 and 3 because there were veterans. So I think what you'll see these coaches giving their knowledge, right? They're like, we've been in this situation. This is what we've done. Then it comes down to just how does their coaching message or any of our coaching messages come across, right? A lot of people know the game. They know the nuances or they know the different things, right? They may not know the intricacies, but they know it. So, but now how do you get your message across? How do you inspire and how do you pull the best out of them? That'll be another part of it. But when you have James Willis, Trevor Anderson, Jelani, Janice, I know Josh Carlson, I know I'm missing a few other Shakes Fletcher as head coaches, and then like for me, Sandy Fletcher and Dion Bailey. By the way, there are 9 bouncers here, all from my coaching tree, all coaching. Really excited about that, but that's besides the point.
There you go.
But having that is a beautiful thing to see on the court every day.
Absolutely. And it kind of, hearing from your interview, you spoke about how at Duke you really felt that there was a real brotherhood in which they all feel comfortable and able to communicate to those past guys and pass down that knowledge. And, you may see them at the facility, for example. But that truly sets itself up to be a long-term entity and, program and business and all of those things.
Yeah. Now the past connects to the present, which hopefully will lead to the future.
Absolutely. And so to get into a little bit of that mindset, but something a little bit more fun, what teams are you seeing that you're like, hey, I'm not necessarily looking forward to this game. They've got some problems on the other side.
Man, I mean, they're all stacked. Like when you go to Lava, you have Bryce, who is just unbelievable on the tramp. Then you go to Ozone and, T.A. Sun and Keith McGee. Then the Mob had like two high flyers and Cam, and I can never remember their name because I don't want them in my nightmares all the time. You just got like guys all over the place that could really, really play. And which is great for the league. And this is what I've always said. I want to win. But what am I going to do on my part to help progress Slamball? Because if we just have this Slamball season and next Slamball season, because us as coaches aren't willing to share talent, to spread it out for parity, then what are we doing? And luckily, all the coaches have agreed. You know what I mean? It's like we're competitive. We want to kick each other's asses. But okay, how much movement do we need to make? Now, luckily, all the coaches drafted really well. And there's been very, very minimal movement. So that's a true testament of the direction of the coaches and the league.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so talking about the draft, I hear that you guys, went above and beyond as far as how you guys strategized and how you guys depicted that strategy.
That's right.
Whether it's magnets and things like that. So I want to give a shout out to you for taking those extra steps and being prepared. But can you kind of talk about, this draft versus previous ones and, how it felt? Because truthfully, there was likely a similar feeling when it first started before, but I feel like with the push that's happening now, I mean, we mentioned the 50K followers to the Slamball official account in a matter of months. I mean, how does that feel knowing that you're a part of this new wave and you're in direct, you're a direct influence on the game and getting it going and things like that?
Yeah, I think when I first drafted Rob Wilson in the first season, you don't really understand the magnitude of it, right? You still think, I'm going to coach Slamball, then I have this career, blah, blah, blah. And then when this came back, and one of my goals was to be in the NBA. Like I think I came close, but you never know if you came close or not, right? And I was like, this draft is going to be my NBA draft. I talked to Sandy, my coordinator. I said, listen, man, we're going to do everything. And Sandy is bobbing and weaving. He's like the best assistant GM / real GM on any team because he found out all the news and everything else. And then we made our picks, really happy with our draft. And saying, all right, hey, this is, and I did, it was a little hurtful when they got rid of the bouncers, but really, I wouldn't even say gratifying, just thankful that they asked me to be the coach of the Buzzsaw, and they're still orange in it, so which I do love that. But knowing that the Buzzsaw is going to be a new franchise moving forward, but tied in to the bouncers with the great players we had in the past. So it's a huge honor. Like, it's just a huge honor. And I think one of the things I've learned as I've gotten older is, like, today is my Super Bowl, and then that's going to end at midnight. And now tomorrow is my new Super Bowl, right? And what I do for my team, for myself, for my kids, etc., I'll know if I'm going to lift up the trophy that night. You know what I mean? And that's how we try to look at it every single day.
For sure. There seems to be this prevailing sense of appreciation, which is really cool to see. And I know that Cam was kind of talking about how he did have trampoline experience and how he's able to help some guys where he can. And to me, when someone's able to think outside of themselves, you become a cornerstone and a true moving piece in the machine that keeps it going. And your mindset and the fact that all the coaches are on the same page with that is going to be pivotal, and it is pivotal to the success. And then when you have players who also carry a similar mindset as athletes, I think it's the perfect ingredients for something really special. And those are the things that you can sense through the TV screen. It's genuine, it's authentic, but ultimately, it's just a good product.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are really thankful. They come in every day. I know my team for sure. I think I mentioned it's the quickest, strong culture that I've been a part of in my coaching career. And, when you have guys who buy in, who truly, truly buy in, and sometimes it's hereditary, sometimes it's trained in them, sometimes it's a choice. And when they decided to do that, you're just sitting in an amazement and watch how it's going to grow and get better and make the team tighter. And I think if I'm blessed to continue on as a Buzzsaw coach in the many seasons ahead, I think you'll see that type of culture continuing on. Just like your team, the Miami Heat, the culture they've had, over time. It's the same thing with us. We do a lot of vetting when taking a look at guys and how they were off the court and on the court, or off the field, on the field. And that was a big part of our draft process as we move forward.
Did you strategize any when you talk about the speed of the camaraderie that's been built? Did you strategize any for some of those guys that were there early, the Super 24? And do you think that matters in general?
When you say strategize, you mean?
So did you say, hey, a couple of these guys are going to have a bond from being here a couple of weeks early, and did you strategize any based on that?
No, and I think the reason why is because it came so fast. We had the Super 24, then all of a sudden we have brand new guys that don't know how to jump on the tramp, and now those guys have to be trained as well too. And then we have 5 or 6 days to evaluate those guys until the draft. So I think it was really more when just speaking to them on a one-on-one basis, their demeanor. So we looked at their demeanor, how they were as a teammate, all the intangible things that people say they do. I don't know if they do or not, right? I don't have a team full of high flyers. I don't have a team like usually in all those great Slamball dunk videos, like Cam's on other guys. Like you won't see a Buzzsaw on there. And one of the things is we just preach like, listen, there'll be a time for that, but for us in our skill set, we got to be efficient, right? So those are things that we really looked at and said, who are going to be good people? Like I'm 46 years old. I don't want to be around a-holes every single day. Now it's going to happen. Don't get me wrong, but one thing I stressed the very first day is like, who's going to be coachable? And I said, listen, you're not on a big time contract in some, in China or Yugoslavia playing basketball, or you don't have an NFL contract. So that means there's two things that aren't happening. And the one thing we could correct is coachability. Can you be coachable? If you can be coachable, I could help you for the rest of your life. If you can't, you won't be here much longer. So that's a big part.
Yep.
So being that you don't have those high-flying players, are you going to strategize the new 4-point play, shooting from the arc?
No.
I haven't seen much in the scrimmages at all.
No, there's a few teams that do shoot, and they shoot it well. I think the Rumble shoot it well, Lava shoot it well. I've got 2 decent shooters, but I don't think it changes our strategy because, okay, so we look at high, and that's where the dunk clips come in. Everyone sees like the high flyers, but Here's the thing: the true game of Slamball is misdirection and almost like drive and dish. The hard part of that is if I drive and dish in basketball, it's easy. In Slamball, I'm driving dishing to you in the slam zone where there's like 4 freaking trampolines there. 4 tramps, I should say. So that's like a problem. So I think that, and don't get me wrong, when we scrimmage the mob, I see all these dudes flying everywhere. I'm like, good Lord, man, they are high, right? But then I can't worry about that because that's not my team. I'm like, all right, guys, this is what we're going to do to offset their strengths, which is what coaching is in many ways. So no, I think our strategy I run a very simple type of offense. To be honest, it was going to be like the Mike D'Antoni of Slamball. But we haven't been as healthy as I'd like us to be. So I don't even know what I would call this, but we have, defensive and offense, we have strategy, and we're learning how to implement that during the course of the game.
For sure. And you were talking about some of those drop offs, and I absolutely agree with you. I think there's not only a beauty but a great strategy in attracting that stopper and making them get out of sync in a sense to open up another play. And was that what you guys were working on the other day when you were kind of shifting between trampolines there in that video that you shared?
Yeah, because when you're a stopper, someone's coming from the side. Maybe it's a cutter. Maybe the ball's on the island. Well, you have one cutter. Then you have a backside cutter, which will be like an over the tramp lob, over the hoop lob, or someone going down the middle on a one-timer. So there's a lot of stuff going on the stopper. You have a cutter who's going to bounce into your tramp, and then you have to keep on bouncing so that now they may throw one lob, and now you got to fully extend and put your body in front of that rim. Right? That's hard. That's really, really hard.
For sure. And you mentioned that it's a mindset thing, and going, you really have to commit to that mindset, right? There are going to be times where you can be an offensive player as a stopper, but generally speaking, you're stopping the other team from scoring. And in saying that, who in the NBA would be, and they may, in past, present, who would be the best stopper, and why is it Ron Artest?
Wow, that's your pick, Ron Artest? That's a good one. I think
has the
Ron
tenacity.
Artest. I think Rodman would be spectacular. Ben Wallace. I don't know how many of the new guys right now would be really good stoppers. Maybe Embiid. Maybe he wouldn't be as consistent.
He'd be injured.
Yeah. I'm trying to.
I can see Giannis out there.
Jan, the Plumlee brothers would be great.
For sure.
Those two would be great because I kind of think they played Slamball while they were at Duke. Anyways, they were the way they played and tough guys. Those guys were tough.
Man.
They were great guys. They were tough.
Do you see, or how much of your scouting experience went into it? And I know that it's a portion of it, if not most of it. But yeah, if you could kind of speak to that, like how much of that scouting experience were you able to lean on? You had some experience in the NBA, and I'm not downplaying it. I'm just going to let you speak for it. But if you can kind of speak to that and how that process kind of enabled you to be comfortable looking at guys and evaluating.
Yeah, it's still hard to scout in Slamball because I don't know if there's still, on paper, there's a quintessential Slamball player. Now, who that is currently, I couldn't tell you because there's still so many things to fill. I know for us, we looked at their background, their experience, where they played. So we felt safe with that. Did have questions about Cam and Dak, the two big-time high flyers for the mob. But then, it's like you don't really know because, Dak is a track star. And how does that transfer over? I don't know. He's got to run catch. Cam Hall is the same question. Now, it didn't mean that I doubted them. I just didn't know. And I didn't know more than what I didn't know of who the guys I drafted, if that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. So and I talked to a bunch of guys here at the NBA, Summer League, and it's the same thing. Those guys are always saying, listen, we don't know. We believe in our guy. And what we looked at, do we think he's going to be great? We don't know. We're not exactly sure. So.
Mm-hmm. And gotcha. Michael Jordan actually just made a comment about that because he said players these days, and he kind of got into what they earn and what they don't based on them playing just yet. But he just mentioned that nowadays you're betting on their potential. And that's kind of speaking exactly to what you're talking about. You're spending a lot of money.
But that's why teams need to be patient. They're not. Like, when Giannis played his first NBA Summer League game, no one knew he was going to be this good. Jokic, whatever his name is, he's not supposed to be this good.
Right.
You know, the guy from Dallas, not supposed to be this good either. You know, so it's such a tough science, honestly. Hold on, I'm going to turn on this light over here, guys.
Yep. Do your thing.
All right.
Okay, so we heard from Cam on the Mob as well, saying that just for like team activities, they went out to the desert on ATVs. What are you doing with the team on the Buzzsaw right now, kind of to get those people linked together, work together as a team, doing some escape rooms or anything like that?
No, we did a team dinner. That's
Team
it.
dinner?
That's all we've done. But here's the thing. All my players live in 2 different homes. They all get together on their own, and they watch film, they watch this, they watch a lot of things. I did tell in the first meeting, I said, listen, we'll do some teamwork stuff, but you're grown-ass men. Like, if this is a professional franchise, we're going to treat it as such. We're not going to do all the other stuff. Now, we will if we have to, but I think you guys are tough enough to figure things out. Now, that's not to say that what other teams do is more or less. It's just, you know, I got to see what these guys are really going to buy into and what they want. And these guys watch film on their own. They get together on their own. They send me pictures all the time of what they're cooking, what they're doing, you know, and it's because they have players only meetings by themselves, you know, that they call on their own. Like when we were talking about culture, like that's a big part of it. And I say this. Having a strong culture doesn't mean you're going to win championships. Just means that in this process of growing, you're going to enjoy each other a little bit more and want to exceed for my teammate.
That makes a
I
lot
agree.
of sense.
I agree. And I like how you put that, we will if we need to. Because ultimately, everyone knows that there can be a time where hey, it's a call to arms, let's get together. You know, we need to break down some walls and really get through. Whereas when you have a team that's kind of doing it on their own, it can make things a little bit easier for you, and you really can get into the coaching aspect of it. So I think that's really cool to hear, and I think that's unique in such a short time, as you mentioned, because you said it's the shortest amount of, you know, camaraderie that's come together and you know, turned out to be a really good experience.
Yeah, you know, the Spurs, they do a coach's night where I don't know how many times a season, but they all go to coach's house, head coach's house, and it's like little tables so that you could have good conversations within that table, and then the coaches move around, and that's what they do, right? Now maybe they do something different with the younger guys, but that's what they do, and it's about instilling the players that we got to win. But I just say it all the time, like, how are we going to act as men around the people around us? And how we act around our teammates is how we're going to react to our opponents, is all the different things. So if you can't communicate effectively, then we're going to have a problem during the season. So we got to learn that aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And do you feel like the league is in good hands?
Oh, yeah. I mean, with, you know, obviously Mason Gordon being up there, Rob Wilson, you know, 2 guys with Slamball pedigree, background, and the creator of it, you know, like,
Exactly.
you know, it's going in the best direction that they put us in. I mean, that's why we're here. It's Slamball. It can't be a cheap sport to play.
Yeah, and to speak to that too, Malik, I mean, back to what we just talked about with pickleball, Gary Vee was a big investor in pickleball as well, and see where it's at today. He's also an investor in Slamball. So,
Yeah, he is.
I like the direction it's heading.
Yes, sir. And this more back and forth, of course, but isn't it cool to see TA and his son out there when we talk about family and you know, being a dad and setting that example? And I think, you know, I watch TA's, you know, posts most mornings, and he's very inspirational and very appreciative. But isn't that so cool to see those guys out there and him able to be there and coaching directly, and then obviously just being a dad.
Yeah, I think what TA does with his team, number one, is amazing. But as a dad, it's spectacular. I was going to say amazing, but that's not a real world. So I'm going to use the word spectacular. And just how he feels for his family, for his sons, those are special things. And now you could do something with your kid. Like you can't beat that. And I know why he's so emotional. He loves it so much. And that is just someone who demonstrates what it is to be a great leader.
Certainly. No, we definitely. I mean, this was one interview that we were really, really looking forward to. Both because you're a speaker, you're used to, having the microphone near you, and the perspective that you have, the background that you have, the direct involvement that you have, and being able to look back and now look forward. I know we're really excited. I mean, we've been talking about this. It came up, a while back. We were in Vegas actually when we were just watching Slamball games. I took my little brother out there for his 21st, and instead of taking his friends, I brought my boys who are all well over 21 to show them a good time. And as we were kind of pregame and about to go out, we were like, what can we put on in the background here? And it was Slamball every time. We're like, man, what if this came back? And that was in March. And it turned out that it was, and that year. So we immediately started getting our gears turning, and that's how it came about for us. But, I can't say enough, how appreciative I am of how seriously you guys are taking it and the steps that you guys are taking it to put it on the world stage. And I know Murph can speak to that as well.
Yep. No, I 100% agree. It's so cool to see it come back. And obviously I can tell you're excited about it as well. Yeah. And we're going to see you in Vegas, man. We're going to see you in Vegas and be going crazy for you.
I am looking forward to meeting you guys, man. It'll be great. I appreciate you having me on. And I can't wait to meet you guys.
Yes, sir. What size T-shirt do you wear, man?
I'm a large.
Large? Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah,
but,
no medium.
Yes, sir. But just to say again, we appreciate any time that someone representing Slamball comes on, especially you, Coach. And, we appreciate the insight. I'm inspired just by the first 10, 15 minutes there. And I'm so glad that that's where we took the interview because it can help anyone. It's not just Slamball, whether it's being a good dad, being a good friend, being a teammate, a good colleague. And it just applies, and I think that's the beautiful thing about sports. It's never just sports. So, like I said, we're looking forward to seeing you guys out there. We'll be rooting for the Buzzsaw and the league in general. So,
Buzzsaw.
Sir.
It'll be great, guys. I can't wait to see you guys next week.
Yes, sir. Hey, appreciate the time, man. We'll leave it there. You guys like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.